Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin and also with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, what is interesting is that the talks have come as the Russian invasion into Ukraine has now reached its 11th day. Now, Naftali Bennett has reportedly offered to mediate in this war. He first held a 3-hour-long meeting with Vladimir Putin at Kremlin. Now, this was Putin's first in-person meeting with a foreign leader since the invasion began in February. The talks have come after Ukraine had urged the state of Israel to hold a dialogue with Russia. The Kremlin said that different aspects of the situation in Ukraine had been discussed during the meeting. And after holding talks with Putin, Bennett spoke with Volodymyr Zelensky as well. Now, Bennett has been treading very cautiously in the face of conflict. He aims to preserve the delicate security cooperation with Russia. The country, remember, has a large military presence in Israel's northern neighbor, Syria. Unlike the West, Israel has not condemned the invasion or slapped Russia with any sanctions. Instead, the country is stressing upon its close relations with both Moscow and Kiev. After wrapping up the meeting in Moscow, Bennett then headed to Berlin to hold talks with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. The French President Emmanuel Macron's office has said that Macron spoke to Bennett before he left for Moscow. And also earlier we spoke with our correspondent Jody Cohen, and this is what she had to say about this surprise visit by the Israeli Prime Minister to Moscow. Listen in.
Well, according to a statement by Israel's Prime Minister's office, the flight took off on Saturday morning after the two leaders spoke on Wednesday. Now, the timing is significant because Saturday is the Jewish Sabbath, which is the day of rest. The Prime Minister, as an Orthodox Jew, would only travel on Saturday for a life-saving purpose. And clearly, in the case of Ukraine, he thought this would be. And this suggests that he wants to play a mediating role, which was requested actually by Ukrainian President Zelensky. And Prime Minister Bennett offered President Putin, and that this offer wasn't rejected. Also significant is the fact that an Israeli diplomatic source has said that the meeting was coordinated in advance with the US, Germany and France in continuous dialogue with Ukraine. So the meeting took place at the Kremlin, and a key focus appears to be on the Ukraine war. According to Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, the two leaders discussed the situation around Ukraine. According to reports, Prime Minister Bennett also spoke about the situation of Israelis and Jewish communities as a result of the conflict. They also discussed the ongoing Iran nuclear talks in Vienna, which Russia is a signatory to. Earlier Saturday, Russia indicated that before backing the Iran deal, it would need guarantees from the US and cited Western sanctions against Russia. So it appears progress in the Iranian nuclear talks and the Ukraine-Russia war could now potentially be linked. So the trip to Moscow came after back-to-back phone calls with Presidents Putin and Zelensky in recent days. Israel has developed strong ties with both countries over the years, and that's helped by the large Jewish communities in both, and also the significant Ukrainian and Russian diasporas in Israel itself. Now, interestingly, Construction and Housing Minister Zev Elkin, he acted as translator during the trip for Bennett. And he has family in Ukraine, which really does demonstrate the close ties between the people in Israel and Ukraine. Of course, there are very close ties as well with the people in Russia. Out of a population of 9 million, 1 million Israelis are of Russian origin. So Israel is careful to maintain relations with both so that it can play a mediation role. On the one hand, Israel has supported Ukraine, for example, by co-sponsoring the UN resolution condemning Russia and even reportedly encouraging others to support it as well. On the other hand, Israel has managed to avoid a rift with Moscow, and that's important because Russia controls Syrian airspace, where Israel needs to defend itself against Iranian-backed militias, which it sees as an existential threat. Now, Foreign Minister Lapid and Prime Minister Bennett appears to be balancing the relations with the two countries. For example, Lapid has been using stronger language. He's talked about a breach of the international order. And Prime Minister Bennett has been talking more about support for the Ukrainian people and not mentioning Russia specifically.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.